Please take your seats quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Welcome to New York and the 2023 U.S. Open, where spectacular awaits. Hallowed grounds that have inspired generations of tennis fans everywhere, who have been witness to incredible matches from the greatest legends of the game. The home of the epic night matches, with that New York-infused energy from the crowd that is unrivaled by any other venue, where memories are waiting to be created in every corner. It's an electricity you don't just see or hear, it's one you feel. This is the U.S. Open, and this is Courtside, the official podcast for the U.S. Open. And here's your host, Marc Stern.
Hello and welcome to Courtside. Thank you so much for tuning in as we say goodbye to day 6. And what a day it's been. We had one more American man who was trying to get to the 4th round to join Tiafoe, Paul, Shelton, and Fritz. And 3 more American women were trying to join Coco Gauff in the 4th round. And it was just an absolutely beautiful day for the huge crowd to enjoy it all. This is the place where spectacular happens, and sometimes that means spectacular weather. We're going to get to all of the highlights from day 6. Plus, I will chat with 2011 champ Sam Stosur, and I'll also talk to legendary coach Jose Higueras. So let's not waste any time. Let's get straight to those highlights, and we'll begin with the number 1 seed and defending champion, Carlos Alcaraz, who faced Daniel Evans on Ash. Alcaraz was sharp in the opener, as he has been all tournament long, and it wasn't long before the first set was his.
Set point number 5, Alcaraz. With the backhand side, serve and volley here for Carlos. Evans trying to chip backhand overhead by Alcaraz. Evans can't pick it up. Short up for Evans in a no man's land, and Alcaraz finally, at last, has the opening set 6-2 over Dan Evans.
And it was more of the same in the second set.
Alcaraz runs down with a backhand slice. Evans at the net here. Alcaraz trying to lob Dan Evans. Goes over his head and in. He tries for a tweener here to Carlos Alcaraz with the touch volley. Good! After the tweener by Evans, Alcaraz culminates the set. He wins it 6-3 in the second. Up 2-0 over Dan Evans.
But Evans wouldn't go quietly into that night and finally found an opening in the third set.
But back into Arthur Ashe Stadium, where Dan Evans is trying to break Carlos Alcaraz, was just frustrated by Alcaraz saving a match point, and then does get the break with a lovely looking backhand lob that just floated and stayed on the left sideline. Crowd loving what it sees from one of the more entertaining players on tour. Dan Evans moves in front.
He'd go on to win that set, the first set, by the way, that Alcaraz has dropped so far in the tournament. But the defending champ got back on track in the 4th to put the match away.
Second serve, Evans comes in to attack it, does with the backhand. Alcaraz waits, center of the baseline, inside out forehand, stretched out backhand Evans. Here comes Alcaraz. There's a forehand winner, and the defending champion marches on. Carlos Alcaraz into the 4th round of the U.S. Open. Vamos, he roars.
The American Michael Mmoh was looking to get to the 4th round of a major for the first time, and he was also trying to make it 5 American men in the 4th round. But it wouldn't be easy with Jack Draper on the other side of the net, who was also looking to make it to the 4th round for the first time at a slam. Draper came out strong, winning the first 2 sets, but Mmoh hung tough to get on the board in the 3rd.
You're on a set point for Mmoh. Inside out forehand, Draper late getting there, and it's just missing as Michael Mmoh gets the 3rd set. We continue on grandstand.
But Draper would not be denied and put an end to Mmoh's nice run in the tournament in the 4th set.
Match point for Jack Draper. The toss, the serve, it's wide. He comes in. The serve and volley's worked here. The backhand cross court, running forehand Mmoh. Open court for the backhand volley. And a spot in the 4th round of the U.S. Open for Jack Draper.
After the match, Prem Suripapat talked to Draper about reaching the 4th round and playing in front of a very pro Michael Mmoh crowd.
Yeah, amazing. So proud of myself to be here in the 4th round. It was a really tough match today. Michael's an informed player. He's beaten a lot of good players recently, so I knew it would be a real challenge to come out here today and perform well. And the conditions were difficult and the crowd were a bit against me and stuff, but I love it and that's why I play. So pleased with myself.
In other early action, the 8th seed Andrei Rublev met Arthur Rinderknecht, and while Rinderknecht won the first set, Rublev stormed back to win the last 3.
Second serve from Rinderknecht. The toss, the serve, it's good. Into the Rublev backhand, short backhand, big. Rinderknecht backhand up the line. The volley is long. It's Rublev roaring as he gets back to the 4th round of the U.S. Open.
In other matches, Matteo Arnaldi got the upset over the 16th seed Cam Norrie, taking him out in straight sets, and Alex de Minaur was also a straight set winner over Nicolas Jarry. Jannik Sinner faced 2016 champ Stan Wawrinka on Armstrong, and the two split the first two sets before Sinner pulled ahead in the third.
Stan with the backhand cross, Sinner a backhand cross. Gets low on Wawrinka, who slices. Sinner's drop shot with the forehand. In comes Wawrinka, chips it into the corner, but just missed it. And Sinner has the third set, 6-4. A 2-1 lead for the Italian 6th seed Jannik Sinner.
And Sinner would finish him off in the fourth.
40-30. Sinner rocks back, serve out wide, blocked by Wawrinka. It's long, and Jannik Sinner advances to the fourth round of the U.S. Open once again.
Turning our attention to the women now, Aryna Sabalenka continues to look very impressive through the first week here, and she dominated Cara Burrell today on Armstrong.
Match point for world number 2, Sabalenka. She has the back and bangs it up the line, and it's a return winner. And a comfortable 6-1, 6-1 win for Sabalenka over Clara Burrell.
Daria Kasatkina also looked sharp in her match against Riet Menin.
Kasatkina on match point. She cradles back, spins it into the forehand of Menin, who puts it down the line. Kasatkina fights it off on the rise. Menin comes up to the net. Here comes the lob by Kasatkina. Menin's got it. Kasatkina jolts for it, inside and forward. Winner! She culminates the match over on court 17.
American Peyton Stearns. Stearns. I like that name. We got to talk to Peyton. Anyways, she advanced to the fourth round of a major for the first time in her career as she eliminated Katie Boulter. So Stearns joins Coco Gauff in the fourth. Could Madison Keys join them? Well, it wouldn't be easy, as she'd be facing Ludmila Samsonova. And after a tight first set, Samsonova finally broke through.
Set point for Samsonova. Rockets into the backhand of Keys, who's late getting it around. Samsonova takes the opening set over Madison Keys, 7-5 on Armstrong.
But Keys wasn't rattled and fought back to even up the match.
A set point number 2 for Keys on Armstrong to force a third. Samsonova steps in on a serve +1. Keys trying to pass, goes cross-court. She's got it! Keys forces a third in Armstrong with the pass cross-court. Pass Samsonova. We're going the distance.
Keys would go on to win the third set and book her trip to the fourth round at the U.S. Open for the first time since 2019. So the American women were undefeated in their matches so far, and all they'd need was for Jessica Pegula to win hers to make it a perfect day. But it wasn't a gimme, as her opponent would be the always dangerous Alina Svitolina. It was a tight match without a lot of separation for either player. The two split the first two sets, but then in the third, Pegula finally got on top and put Svitolina away.
First serve from Pegula, down the tee, had to lunge on the return, but keeps it in on the floated forehand. Then Svitolina going cross with her forehand. They're trading cross-court, change of direction down the line, but it's missed by Svitolina. And it's a loud roar from Jessica Pegula. She knew this one was going to be a battle, and it was.
Afterwards, she talked about facing such a tough opponent.
Yeah, I knew no matter what, she wasn't going to go away. I feel like every time I play her, it's so close, and it's just a couple breaks here and there. But she's been playing amazing. I knew she was going to be really tough. I think we both started off, I don't know, maybe a little nervous, a little off the first two sets. Honestly, I don't think either of us were really playing that great. We were just trying to get through. So, no, I mean, she definitely picked up her level and forced me to really have to come out strong in the third.
Well, we got 4 Americans in the fourth round. Just like the men, we have 2 Americans facing each other, as Pegula will now face Madison Keys in the next round. And quite honestly, that is a must-see match. And with Svitolina's exit, Caroline Wozniacki is the only remaining mother left in the field from the 10 who began the tournament. But that win did cap off a stellar day for the Americans. In one other early match, Qinwen Zheng knocked out Lucia Bronzetti in 3 sets. So that was the day session. The night session began with 2 terrific battles. On Ash, last year's finalist Ons Jabeur was facing Marie Bouskova. Jabeur has not been 100% so far in this tournament, as she's been dealing with some kind of illness, a respiratory illness, something, but she has not been all right. But she has battled through it to stay alive. Now, the 2 stayed even in this match, and as Jabeur served to stay in the set at 5-6, her serve betrayed her at the worst time.
Third set point from Marie Bouskova. Second serve from Jabeur, and it's a double fault from Ons Jabeur, her first of the match, and that gives the first set to the number 31 seed Marie Bouskova on Arthur Ashe Stadium. Hang on tight, folks. We got ourselves perhaps an upset in the making.
Jabeur was clearly struggling, but was gamely fighting through to try and stay in the match. And then midway through the second set, Bouzkova suffered an injury to her leg that limited her ability to move around. She took a 10-minute medical timeout, but elected to stay in the match. It was obvious, though, that she was in a lot of pain, had trouble moving around, grimacing with every movement and every shot, but she fought bravely and hung in there to force a tiebreaker. But in the breaker, Jabeur came out on top.
First serve in again to the Jabeur forehand at 85 miles an hour. Now they go forehand to forehand. Jabeur looking for the down the lines, got it. Bouzkova has it, but Jabeur into the open court. Bouzkova throws up a high lob from beyond the service line. Ons Jabeur cradles it, slicing just inside the sideline, and has leveled this match at 1 set apiece at Arthur Ashe Stadium.
That brought us to the third set. Bouzkova showed a lot of heart by staying in the match, but Jabeur finally was getting into her game and broke out to a 5-2 lead. After Bouzkova held, Jabeur had the match on her racket, quickly raced out to a 40-love lead, but Bouzkova fought back to tie it up at deuce. Eventually, Jabeur was finally able to get the win.
Forehand from the middle of the court to the forehand corner. Back to the forehand to Jabeur. Back behind Bouzkova's forehand, chips it back towards the baseline. Bouzkova hanging in there, but only for so long as her final forehand finds the net. Ons Jabeur with a knowing nod to her crew, a sigh of relief, and a handshake for the vanquished opponent. Call it a full-on hug. Ons Jabeur is into the round of 16 with a 3-set win over the 31st seed Marie Bouzkova.
Bouzkova may have lost the match, but she showed a lot of heart by not only continuing to fight when she was clearly in a lot of pain, but giving Jabeur all she could handle. And Jabeur continued to show how tough she is, battling in every match when she is clearly sick and somehow surviving to get to the fourth round. Hopefully a day off will help her get back to 100% or close to it. The first night match for the men was on Armstrong between the 19th-seeded Grigor Dimitrov and the 12th-seeded Alexander Zverev. The start of this match was incredibly close, and it would be Dimitrov who took the first set in a tiebreaker.
Here's his first serve on set point. The return is long, and Grigor Dimitrov has taken the first set in a tiebreaker over Alexander Zverev, 7-6.
The second set went to a tiebreaker, but this time it went to Zverev.
And here comes the second serve at 8-9. Sasha Zverev backhand to backhand return and a backhand into the net from Grigor Dimitrov. A primal scream from Sasha Zverev, and we are level at 1 set apiece.
But then Zverev rolled to take the third set 6-1, and soon after, he took the match. And that left just 2 matches for the day. On Armstrong, the 9th seed and reigning Wimbledon champ, Marketa Vondrousova, beat the 22 seed Ekaterina Alexandrova. And the 3 seed Daniil Medvedev brought his A-game to his match with Sebastian Baez on Ashe. Medvedev raced out to take the first set easily.
Baez with the backhand. Medvedev inside-out forehand hit well. Now has a short backhand. No, he doesn't. The error from Baez gives Daniil Medvedev the first set, 6-2.
And it was literally more of the same in the second set.
Medvedev backhand cross. Baez goes backhand cross and short. Medvedev backhand middle. Baez drop shot off the backhand wing into the net. Good thoughts, but not executed perfectly. And Daniil Medvedev has another 6-2 set in his pocket.
But just like his third round match with Chris O'Connell, Medvedev lost his game in the third set. Baez got an early break and built a 5-2 lead. Then it started to rain. Just lightly, but enough that they had to pause the match and close the roof on Ashe. After the 10-minute break, Medvedev was back to his old self, and after holding, forced a break, and then held again to tie things up at 5 apiece. The set would move to a tiebreaker, and Medvedev would finally prevail. And so he moves on to the fourth round here for the 5th straight year. And so that brings an end to day 6 and the third round. Both number 1 seeds are still alive, as are the 2 and 3 seeds for the men and women. And there are 4 American men and 4 American women who have made it to the last 16. And the fun in the fourth round begins tomorrow. Okay, coming up, I'll talk to Sam Stosur, a 7-time Grand Slam winner in singles, doubles, and mixed doubles. But first, we have this from Prem Suripapat.
Welcome to this moment in U.S. Open history. The 1974 U.S. Open was memorable for several reasons, one of which was that it was the last year that the tournament would be played on grass. They would switch to clay in 1975 at Forest Hills before going to hard courts in 1978 when the tournament moved from Forest Hills to its current location. Yvonne Goolagong and Billie Jean King were the two best grass court players, so it was fitting that they made it to the finals that year. Goolagong had 3 Grand Slam titles under her belt at the time, including the Australian Open earlier that year, and had been a U.S. Open finalist in 1973 but lost to Margaret Court, who decided to sit out the 74 Open. King had 10 Grand Slam wins entering the tournament, with 3 of those coming on the grass at the U.S. Open. As busy and successful as King had been on the court, though, it was nothing compared to how she was winning off the court, like forming the women's tour, being the driving force to get equal prize money at the U.S. Open, and beating Bobby Riggs in the Battle of the Sexes match, which changed tennis and sports forever. Chris Evert was a heavy favorite to win the Open that year, as she came into the tournament with a 55-match winning streak, but she was knocked out by Goolagong in the semifinals in 3 sets. King actually hadn't played in a match since losing in the quarterfinals at Wimbledon, but stormed through her matches, not losing a set until she dropped the opening set in the semifinals against Julie Heldman. In the final, the two would play brilliantly. Goolagong converted on her 6th break chance against King to make the score 4-2, and she'd go on to win the set 6-3. In the second set, it was King's turn to break, going up 3-1, and like Goolagong, she'd win it 6-3. In the decisive set, Goolagong came out strong and raced to a 3-love lead. But then King won 12 of the next 15 points to square the match at 3-all. At 4-all, King got another break and had the championship on her racket. But Goolagong broke back at love to even it up at 5 games apiece. Instead of folding in at that moment, King shrugged it off and won 8 of the next 9 points to win the title. Goolagong would go on to win another 4 Grand Slam singles titles before she retired, and though she would reach the finals 2 more times in New York, she would never win there, the only slam she wouldn't win. For King, the win would be the last of her 4 U.S. Open championships and the second to last major that she would win, as she would add her 6th Wimbledon title the following year. But in the end, her legacy wouldn't be judged by the number of slams she won or how many matches she won. Instead, Billie Jean King will always be remembered as someone who fought unceasingly against injustice wherever she found it, and she remains one of the most revered public figures in America. With this moment in U.S. Open history, I'm Prim Saripapat.
Thanks, Prim. And just another wonderful memory from Billie Jean King. And Yvonne Goolagong, who's actually Yvonne Cawley now, was such an amazing player as well and an inspiration to so many people. I would have given just about anything to have been at that match. Still to come, my chat with Jose Higueras. But Sam Stosur is up next on Courtside.
Drink Evian, the source of refreshment for your body and mind. Born in the French Alps, our water starts as snow and rain and travels through layers of glacier rock, where it gets its naturally occurring electrolytes for a cool, crisp taste. Mountain-made minerals, from alpine glacier rocks to you. Evian, live young.
The U.S. Open is even better when you're with American Express. From pre-sale tickets to in-ear radios to recharging at the U.S. Open Amex fan experience, open to all fans. See how to elevate your experience at usopen.org/Amex. Don't live life without it. Terms apply.
Play safe in the sun with La Roche-Posay Ultralight Sunscreen. It blocks up to 98% of UVB rays and helps prevent visible sun damage with UVA UVB protection and antioxidants. La Roche-Posay, the official sunscreen of the U.S. Open.
This is Courtside, the U.S. Open podcast.
I could not be happier right now to welcome such a legend of the sport, Sam Stosur. And she's going to smile and laugh at this. And Sam, I told you, I have a very long introduction for you. Okay, number 4 singles was the highest ranking you had, which is incredibly great. You were the 2011 U.S. Open singles champion. You were a number 1 doubles player for so long, I can't even count up that high. You won another 5 Grand Slam championships, 3 doubles, 2 mixed, and 2 of those doubles were here at the U.S. Open, and your last one was in 2021. And when you won that 2011 U.S. Open, you were the first Australian woman since Yvonne Goolagong won a Grand Slam in 1980. So thank you for taking time, and thank you for everything you've done in the sport of tennis.
Well, thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here.
How are you enjoying the tournament so far? And is it weird to be commentating, because you're part of our World Feed broadcasters? You've been out there. You've won big on these courts. How is it for you to now be on the other side of the glass watching the action?
You know what? It's actually been really interesting. I've loved my week here. I've had a great time. I've worked with new and different people. But I have to say, doing this now from another vantage point, you see so much more. And I kind of wish, maybe I should have watched a bit more tennis again in my career. I always watched a lot, and I loved watching. But I don't know, maybe when you're forced to talk about it, you just take in that little bit more. So I've really enjoyed it.
No, it's a fun tournament, and it's been great so far. The weather has been just absolutely perfect. I don't mean to jinx it. Weather gods, don't jinx it for me. And the other thing is, and you've done very well here. As I said, you've won a couple of doubles titles here. You won the singles title. I know the 2011 title, there was a lot of weirdness going on at the end of that match, to say it politely, and I think the crowd may not have exactly been great with you. But overall, this tournament seemed to bring out the best in. Did you like playing in New York?
Oh, it most certainly has. The first doubles title I won was here in 2005. So I always enjoyed playing here. And I have to say, for all of my career, whether it was here in New York or all the other places we get to play in the States, I always felt like I had pretty good support. I don't know why the fans here maybe they just like the way I played or something, but I've always felt like I could enjoy playing in any sort of arena here. But obviously, New York is very special. It's the biggest court in the world, and that moment for me in 2011 was just enormous. I didn't feel like the crowd was necessarily against me. They were just very pro Serena.
Right,
and
sure.
In that situation, in that setting and everything else, totally got it. Didn't bother me. But there was a couple of moments during that match where I did feel about 3 centimeters tall and
sure,
and didn't know kind of how to necessarily handle it, but I did, and I got through it, and obviously I won the title, and that's all that I really worried about.
The beginning of that third set, to steady yourself. It was the second set, I'm sorry.
2 sets, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, the beginning of the second set, to steady yourself with all of that just swirling around you, that alone makes you one of the great champions ever, because it's those that can keep their head while everyone else is losing theirs around you. That's the measure of a champion.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it was a huge moment, and I mean, right from the moment I found myself in that final the night before, I just had this weird feeling I was going to win that day. And I've said it numerous times, I wish I had that feeling more often in my career. But for whatever reason, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Obviously, I executed it and played well, but I just had this feeling that it was going to be my turn.
Well, you said just a few minutes ago, you don't know why you get so much support around here. Maybe it's that people love the way you play. I can attest to that. Love the way you play. I mean, you had this tenacious style. You were always in it, and you, to me, I remember just you playing with a lot of joy, and I love seeing that.
Well, thanks very much. Yeah, I did enjoy what I did for a very long time. It was always, it wasn't a hard part of my career to be out on court competing or even practicing and training. I loved the training. I loved everything about it. So the matches are sort of the icing on the cake, and if you can win more than you lose, then that's good.
Absolutely. Well, listen, so you were on the call earlier today. And by the way, just in full disclosure, I like to tell people when we're taping this, it is now 3 p.m. When you're hearing this, it might be tomorrow or whatever, but with 3 p.m. today, you got to call the Maddie Keys match against
Correct.
Ludmila Samsonova. Wow. Maddie Keys really looked sharp in that match.
I have to say, I was really impressed with Maddie Keys. I've watched her play a lot over, the last 20 years. Well, sorry, she probably hasn't been playing that long. It shows how old I am. But over her career, I've played against her as well, and I know how difficult she can be to play against because she hits such a big ball. She has so much easy power. But sometimes you think, she'll give me some errors. This is going to come. It's going to come my way. She won't be able to keep it up. But today, she lost that first set. Not playing badly at all.
No,
had a couple of
chances, right?
Exactly. And I thought, I hope she just can steady here, regroup, not necessarily go out and change anything, because I thought she was playing the right way and playing well enough. And that's exactly what she did. And then all of a sudden, Samsonova started throwing in a few more errors.
Right.
She got a few more chances to break serve. She took them and really stayed steady and just good tennis the whole way through. So I was, that kind of got, Maddie could be a bit dangerous now in this draw.
Well, she was a finalist here just a few years ago. And she certainly has a talent when she's healthy and sort of locked in, and she feels like she is right now. And I'm just thinking this right now, so forgive me because I'm kind of springing this on you. But as a former player and a player of such great talent, there's always so many momentum switches within every match, within every game. But if you really hit adversity where, like, I don't know, you have a double fault at a bad time, or you get a bad call, or they hit an amazing shot, and you're just, and the weight of the world is on you, and how do you get that out of your head and say, that was then, I have to focus on this this current point and the next point after that?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Every player knows there's going to be unforced errors, and especially the more aggressive players who go for more winners, they're going to have more errors. So you have to understand that about your tennis. I think that's a big part. But I think sometimes it's the really sort of what everyone thinks is the really easy shot to make, and you fluff it and the whole crowd goes, oh, and that you know it too, but you got to try and somehow block that out and just regroup. And often if that say happened to me, I would actually just laugh about it, because
it's going to happen.
99 times out of 100 you're probably going to make it.
Yeah.
And I think there's no point getting angry or frustrated about it. Obviously it's, depending what the scoreline is, probably easier to do sometimes to say than do. But ultimately, you just have to regroup and move on. And that point's done. Now, what can I do for the future?
Thank you for that. I just love picking the brain of somebody that, again, played at such a high level. Because clearly, you can just look at me. You're not going to be like, did you ever play at all? Did you play? No. I mean, I played, but as an amateur and very poorly. So I want to get back to the women's draw, and I don't want to be too simple about it and say, well, Iga and Coco and Jessie and Arena, I mean, they're all playing very well, and I think, maybe Iga is the favorite because she's the defending champion, and boy, she just annihilates people when she's out there. I know she doesn't like the term the bagel factory, but she keeps just, dropping
Well, that's
people.
her own fault for giving so many bagels out. So she can't blame anyone for doing it. So, talking about her in that way. But I did that match yesterday of hers, and it was an annihilation.
Yeah.
Juvan barely could win points.
Yeah, and I think when she won a game in the second set, she got an ovation. And I know they're great friends.
Yeah.
So, but she just looks locked in right now. But as we're getting now, we're moving on, in the tournament. How do you see things playing out? We got those four that I just mentioned. Who out of them do you really think you see winning this?
Well, right from the beginning, since Coco's had this great summer leading into the US
she
Open.
Really has, right?
I thought, maybe she actually is a shot here. She struggled over the clay and the grass, not playing well. I hope it's fair to say that. I think that her results were not up to where she would expect. But she's really been able to bounce back from that, which shows incredible mental strength. She's not changed her game, but found the form that she's needed to.
Right.
She's battled a couple of times out here, losing the first sets, which I think, if you can win in straight sets, that's obviously better, and you would prefer that. But again, I think it shows that she's up for the fight. She can work things out. She can work through some adversity, maybe change tactics a little bit, and she's got the goods to then come through in these three setters. And yesterday she ran away with it. So I think Coco's probably in the form of her career at the moment. She is obviously on course for a collision with Iga in the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
So, that's arguably two of the most favoured players to try and win here. So we'll see how that plays out. But, we've got Wozniacki also in the draw. So, if she manages to win, that would be the most incredible story.
It really would be.
And then, Sabalenka, again, she was so good today. She was pretty good her first two rounds, but still a bit shaky on serve, especially in her opening match. No sign of that today, just power and precision. And again, her opponent just had absolutely no answers.
The serve is what worries me with her. When she's on, she's unbeatable. But when that serve gets shaky and all of a sudden she starts throwing doubles, you're like, oh, no. And that's what it means. It's like you want to go down and call a timeout and be like, all right, let's go walk around Ash for a little bit, clear your head, and then we'll come back and we'll play.
Yeah, that's the thing, because it is actually such a weapon for her, especially her first serve.
Oh, God.
And when her second's on, all the rest of her game really flows. But when that second gets a bit shaky and she's double faulting, and they're not just double faults, they're like out of control double faults where it really looks like she has no idea where it's going to land.
We call that pulling a Marc Stern.
Then it starts to affect, I think, the rest of her game sometimes.
Sure.
So, which is, I'll be honest, and I can say this now, I'm not playing anymore. I had a few issues with my serve a little bit towards the end of my career, and it's not a good feeling. When you know you're a good server or a big server and it sort of disappears from you, you can get rocked easily. So that's why I think, again, that Australian Open win just shows how strong she is to get past that. And I think it creeps in a little bit every now and then, but I think ever so slightly, those effects of that are going to start disappearing.
I hope so. She's such a joy to watch play, and to see her break through in Australia, it made my heart sing, because I all the stuff that she's been dealing with over the last year, watching the Netflix show, Breakpoint, and to see her come out on top like that and have the year she's having has been a lot of fun.
I actually really enjoy watching her play. I think she's a fun character to kind of watch in shows like the Netflix thing. She shows you exactly what she's feeling out there. She's entertaining. I like the way she plays. So for her to have that breakthrough, and now she's made semis another couple of times, she's super consistent across these top level tournaments.
And once you break through, it's like, oh, I can do this. It's having that belief. Anyways, that's where I see it from my cheap seats. You're like, yeah, that's how it works, man. That's how it works.
You've watched enough tennis, you get it.
The other big thing going on this year is this, and this is such a wonderful thing. We talked about it a lot. The 50th anniversary of equal prize money at the U.S. Open, and now all the Grand Slams have equal prize money. It felt like they all should have been there 50 years ago, but the fact that the U.S. Open was so far out in front of this, what are your thoughts on that, and just your thoughts on Billie Jean King, who led the charge for that and continues to lead the charge on so many fronts? She's just, you can't say enough great things about Billie.
Oh, I mean, Billie is one in the world, like she's so unique, so special to everyone in tennis, but now what she's been able to do is sort of way past tennis terms, I guess. I was very fortunate to meet Billie many, many years ago. I think I was about 21 or 22. She actually came on court with myself and my doubles partner at the time, Lisa Raymond.
Oh, yeah.
We were at the finals, the WTA finals. She came on court, told me a couple of things about my volleys, and I was like, yes, Billie, I will do that, Billie. And she just... she walks into a room and it doesn't matter who's in there, they want to listen. And very fortunate to have had, I guess, a few conversations over the years with her, and she's a very, very special person. I think tennis, we're very lucky that we had her playing tennis, and she obviously started the whole movement, got equal prize money, and now every player since then has been able to have the careers they've had because of what her and obviously the original 9 did, and the fact that she's still here and loves the tennis, comes out every day.
It's amazing.
She even made it to the World Cup Women's down in Australia just the week before the US Open.
Are you serious?
She came for the semis and the finals. So
that's great.
That just shows that it's not just about tennis that she's fighting for. She cares about, world issues, sports, whatever it is, she's there to back it.
It's almost like she's like a superhero. Wherever there's trouble, she's going to fly there and take it on head on. And she's going to beat it because she's Billie Jean King.
Exactly.
Well, Sam, I cannot thank you enough for taking time. As an American, I've always felt a strong kinship with the Australians. I always feel like we're brothers and sisters, I've always loved that. I've loved Australians. And you cannot love tennis without loving what the Australians have contributed, whether it's Rod Laver, Yvonne Goolagong, Ash Barty, Pat Cash, yourself. You've all been the greatest of champions and have done so many wonderful things for this sport. So thank you for everything you've done, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you. That's it. We're done.
We're done.
That was too quick.
Man, what a fun time talking with Sam. Yeah, that did fly by. We got to get her back on the show. She is, as I said, another great part of that amazing Australian tennis legacy. And she also happens to be incredibly nice. She always seems to have a smile on her face and an infectious, positive attitude. Love that. Jose Higueras is another person who has a great outlook on life, and he's coming up next as Courtside continues.
Aperol is bringing a slice of Italy to the U.S. Open. Come join us as we serve up joyful vibes all tournament long. Aperol Liqueur, 11% alcohol by volume, 22 proof. Copyright 2023 Campari America, New York, New York. Please enjoy responsibly.
At IHG Hotels and Resorts, we believe you should travel like you mean it. As the official hotel sponsor of the US Open Tennis Championships, IHG helps guests turn travel up a notch and makes every getaway the best one yet. With 18 hotel brands, 6,000 plus global destinations, and the IHG One Rewards loyalty program, what are you waiting for? Get inspired and book now.
mRNA. Game, set, match.
Moderna is working to deliver the greatest possible impact to people through mRNA medicines. See what mRNA could do at aboutmRNA.com. Proud sponsor of the U.S. Open. Moderna. This changes everything.
This is Courtside, the U.S. Open podcast.
I actually do not have enough time right now to list all the accomplishments, all the great champions that the legendary coach, Jose Higueras, has been involved with, because it's too many. And it's unbelievable grand slams that you've been a part of.
You're too nice.
And I want to make sure I point this out, because everyone regards you like going to the mountaintop to seek the wisdom on the top of the hill about tennis, because you've been around the game your whole life. You're one of the premier coaches ever. But people may forget, particularly younger people, that you were a terrific player yourself. You won a lot of titles. You were a semifinalist twice at Roland Garros, I believe, and rose to number 6. Was that your highest ranking?
Correct.
Yeah. That's so.
I was okay compared to these guys.
But I just want to make sure folks know that. It's not like you just know about, this has been your whole life. You've devoted your life to.
Yes, it has.
So what is it like for you to see, and I'm speaking very generally now, but somebody that you've worked with, when you see them kind of develop, maybe from like when they're a kid, 12 years old, and then you see them out on a court, maybe on Ash, but somewhere on tour.
I always thought that I was more a teacher than a coach, and I think, for me, the biggest reward that I've gotten in my coaching career is seeing the players get better, independently the stage that I started working with them. So that was my reward. Obviously, I made a living coaching, but making the living never came before that, and that's how I based my decisions on my career.
Well, you've done admirably well, and just as a fan of tennis, the contributions you've given to the sport over the decades have been, invaluable. I'll just say that. Thank you for all of that, Jose.
Thank you for being so nice.
Now you worked with Tommy Paul, correct?
I did. Through player development.
Uh-huh.
When I was the director of coaching, I was there for about 8 years, and then another few years with a few less weeks with him, and basically with all those young guys and girls through their coaches also. Everybody, they had their coaches, but they used to come to Warm Springs to spend some time with me and the coaches, and we went through a lot of these young boys and girls that you see in the main draw here. We are in a really special era for American tennis. We saw all the talented players on the men's side yesterday doing so well. Wasn't as great a day for the women, but then Coco Gauff comes through, and she did great. Earlier today, we saw Jessica Pegula and Maddie Keys, who were terrific. And it's a really exciting time. And unfortunately, though, there's so many Americans that have made it this far. 2 of them are going to have to play each other tomorrow: Ben Shelton and Tommy Paul. Yeah, the good news is that one of them is going to win.
Yes.
So we have another one in the quarters. But no, I think it's extremely exciting, not because they are good players, they are good kids, and there are a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And then they're pushing each other. And there is a younger generation coming forward also with J.J. Wolf and this kid Mickelson, and there's a bunch of these kids that are really good too. So it creates a competitive environment and inspires the younger generations. And then from there, the ones that are below Mickelson and Ethan and all these boys, the ones that are below, the same thing. Everybody's trying to keep climbing. So it's a great atmosphere. Once again, I credit that to the culture that it was created during those 10, 12 years. And I'm just hoping that the culture stays. And
as a culture that you helped to build, right?
Yes, that's what we put together.
Yeah.
That we took through the country. And with all our sectional camps and the coaches' education, and we touched so many thousands of kids and coaches and parents. And it was very rewarding just to see how we can actually get along if everybody has good intentions. And,
right.
And our intentions were never to take the players away from their programs. I'll give you a couple of examples. So you have Francis Tiafoe. Francis Tiafoe started at JTCC in Washington, D.C. And JTCC was one of our regional training centers. So Francis, so we work with them. So Francis will come to Boca, to Orlando, work with one of our coaches, travel with one of our coaches, but always in constant cooperation with where he came from.
Sure. So that's important.
It was extremely important. I think one of the biggest disservices that you can do to a young kid is actually separate him or her from the people that has helped them to get where they are, because there is a relationship, and
exactly
it's something that we were always very careful about that. And once again, from everybody kind of hating the USDA and hating PD, the relationships that we built were great, and they're still there.
Oh, it's magnificent, as you said. I mean, we got a long time. I don't want to say we went through like the wastelands with American tennis, because there were still some good players. I mean, John Isner, who just retired, Jack Sock, some very good players. But in an era where we looked up at the greatest players of Rafa Nadal and Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic, and now we see another supreme talent in Carlos Alcaraz. Yes. Americans being the way they are, they're like, well, gosh darn it, why don't we have that superstar? But it takes time. You have to build the culture, and you have to develop it. And it might not be that first wave or the second wave, but like you said, kids growing up underneath that, they see that, they get inspired, and then they want to get involved, and that's how you win.
Yes, I mean that's that's the whole thing. And the thing with Spain, if you look at Spain in the last 20 years, they have they teach the important things well, and giving the player flexibility to express who they are as tennis players. But in general, the important things that you do when you play tennis, they do really well, and that's something that I think all the programs should actually have. There aren't that many ways to play tennis to be successful. So that's what we try. That's what we try to do here, and I think. It's important to sustain that, just to keep taking care of the base, because everything starts with the base. The top players are a consequence of that, and once again, I think it's a little bit of a misconception with player development, because people say, well, you guys get $50 million, where are the top players? Well, the service is so much wider than that.
Yeah.
Once again, the top players are just a consequence of that. So I think. Is very exciting. I mean, I'm having a ball just going from court to court. So many young kids. We have some really good juniors also, which is also the beginning of having a good chance to make it. So times are good.
Things are good. And as we're talking about this, Jose, I'm thinking, I'm going through sort of like the history, at least the last 50, 60 years of tennis, and thinking about how different countries have had their runs. Yeah. For a long time it was Australia, with the masters of everything. The United States has had a couple of very good long runs. At one point, Sweden was the king of tennis, and now it really feels in a lot of ways that Spain is sort of, am I right in thinking that Spain is sort of the top of the heap right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for Alcaraz, it wouldn't be as good. But,
sure.
Because they don't have the same level of players that we had maybe 10 years ago. Like you have David Ferrer, Feliciano Lopez, Verdasco. A bunch of guys that were actually in the verge of being top 10.
Right.
But they do have a lot of good players, and then they have Alcaraz, which obviously is gonna have a huge impact, I believe, in Spain.
I don't want to put too much pressure on him, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but you've seen a lot more tennis than I have, and your knowledge of the sport blows mine away. We just came out of an era, like I said, with Novak and Roger and Rafa, three of the greatest players you'll ever watch. When I watch Carlos Alcaraz, through my eyes, he's every bit as good as those guys, and it feels like he's still in an upward arc. But again, I don't want to put that on him too early because that feels unfair. But then he goes out and he delivers. What's your assessment of him?
Well, for me, he plays tennis the way, as a purist of the game, the way the game should be played, which is he plays in all parts of the course with every single shot.
Yes, he does.
So and that's easy to say. But I'll tell you a funny thing. So if you go on YouTube and you look at, there's a competition in Europe, it's an under 14 competition. It's called Le Petit As, and it's played in France. And if you go on YouTube and you watch the final of that tournament 6-7 years ago with Carlos, Carlos played exactly the same thing that you see here.
So this is who he is.
He same back and slice, same drop shots, same volleys, but obviously with a few more pounds on top of him in a lot more matches. So that was always, and it is always, my vision of a tennis player: make him or her as complete as possible, because the more understanding that everybody has a base game, everybody is more aggressive, everybody is more of a retriever, but at the same time you want to have more tools, because sooner or later when you play different opponents you are going to need those. And I think Carlos is helping everybody already. I mean, I've seen Novak is coming in a lot more.
He is.
More drop shots, and that's just a lot of competition. But he plays, I don't know if this is very fair to say, but to me, they are great champions at every sport and great players at every sport. So for me, Carlos is a great tennis player. And then they are great champions that may win more slams than he does. And that's, and all credit to them. Nothing to do with what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's a difference.
But I don't know if it makes any difference.
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, it totally makes sense. Yeah, there's a player.
That's the way I.
Yeah.
I mean, I will pay to go watch him play.
Yeah, whether it was in a first round or an exhibition match, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. If I'm in Singapore and he's playing and I have time, I will go buy a ticket.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll buy a ticket because I know Juan Carlos pretty well. but I will definitely go watch him play. And that's and I think when the kids, that's a little bit the problem. When the kids are young, there is so much focus on winning at early ages that it does limit their development. They don't experiment at all.
Right, because you're afraid to risk.
Yes.
Because if you deviate from something to maybe go for something, then you lose. Then it's like, oh, that's bad. Never do that again.
I mean, you don't learn how to volley unless you miss millions of volleys. And you
I've missed millions.
Yeah, and you only miss millions if you go there enough times, right?
Right.
And the drop shot is the same thing, and everything is the same thing. So I think it's important for the like I said, the kids start competing very early, and I think it's important for them to have a little bit more of a mid to long-term vision on how these kids can play according to his physique, and how they feel the game. But at the end of the day, it's a lot more fun to actually go out there and try to master every aspect of the game to the best of your ability.
Yes.
Than getting stuck in being a one-dimensional player. That's just my feeling.
Coco Gauff, maybe, I know she's not ranked as high as Jess Pegula, whose game is great, and I love Jess. But Coco Gauff, younger, and really in the upward arc of her career, and seems to really be clicking on all cylinders right now.
Coco, I mean, as I mentioned to you before, I think she's the best athlete on tour.
Yeah, she really seems like it.
I mean, she's a great athlete. She's a very good competitor. I think she's playing better and better. She got a good team around her. And my hope is that, as time goes forward, actually, I just talked to her a little while ago, and I told her, I said, listen, watch Alcaraz play a little bit. You can do that.
Yeah.
You're as good an athlete as he is or better.
Yeah.
But it takes time. Right? But I will hope that she actually, as time goes by, acquires more skills that will make her more successful, in my opinion. It will make the crowd liking her even more if that's possible. And she will have a lot more fun.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I was telling you before we started, and this is a silly little example of things, but I saw her and Jess Pegula had just finished. They won a doubles match the other day on the post-match interview. They were having so much fun. They were laughing and giggling. They weren't disrespecting their opponents. They were just with joy. Yeah. And I was like, we need more of that. We need to bottle this and get it around everywhere. Yeah. I think Carlos plays like that. I think Francis plays like that.
I mean, Francis is great.
He's you can't help but love him.
I was just talking to Zina Garrison a little while ago. And
Zina's the best.
And I was telling her, I said, boy, wouldn't it be great if Francis wins a slam with that smile and he's so
Oh my
gosh! Francis and Carlos and Coco.
Yeah.
And, I mean, tennis
is
in a good place.
It's in a very good place. Yeah. And it's interesting. I meant to say this about Tommy Paul a little bit earlier, but Francis is a little bit older.
You know, and not old, but like a little bit older. And Tommy's what, like 26, 27?
Yeah, well, Francis is a year younger than Tommy.
Okay.
Yeah, he's
And-
Tommy's a 97.
Okay.
And Francis a 98.
So, you know, a lot of times when we think of a tennis phenom, we're like, oh, well, they're already great. You know, like Coco at 15, you're like, you're out there and you're winning and stuff like that. But the journey is different for every person, every player, right?
Yes, and everybody matures. If you remember, in 2017, these boys, Francis, Tommy, Taylor, and Rally Opelka, they won every slam. We won every slam and runner-up. So which is unbelievable. It's been never done before.
Dominating.
Yeah.
Wow.
So these guys were better than Tim. They were better than Zverev. They were better than all these guys that were the same age, but they kind of, as you said before, different people mature at different times. They got a little lost for a few years, and then they started to get into the groove again, and there you have it, because they are very good.
You know, the proof is in the pudding, and you see where everybody's playing right now, and it's exciting. I mean, listen, I'm excited whoever is out there playing, as long as it's good tennis and they're having fun, it's great. And, you know, I wish... What do you think you can do with a 54-year-old guy who doesn't play all that well? Pretty good shape, but doesn't play all that way. Can you help me out?
Well, it's a challenge.
You're like, I don't need that many challenges,
I didn't
Marc.
say it's impossible. I just say it's a challenge. But once again, you can always get better as long as
you want to
get better.
I was going to say, whether it's me, just want to play rec league or anything like that,
doesn't matter.
When you're taking on, you know, a young player to coach them, is basically say, look, I can help you be as great as you can be, but you have to buy into it. Is that the key to everything?
It is. I mean, there's got to be an understanding. If you don't go in the same direction, then obviously you're not going to get too far. I mean, there's got to be an understanding, and realistic understanding who the athlete is, how they feel the game. I mean, if I want to have somebody playing a very aggressive tennis, but he's the way he feels the game is a little more of a counterpuncher and then taking advantage of some short balls and so on, more than likely I will destroy him or her. So you want to make sure that you have a good feeling and talk to the player enough to actually make sure that you guys are going into the right direction. But to me, players retire for two reasons. They retire, one, because physically they're done.
Yep.
Or two, because mentally they're done, meaning that they lose that fire.
That fire inside.
About getting better.
Yeah.
Those are the only two reasons that people retire, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to be the person to disagree with you, because that's 100% right.
When you see Novak at 36 or 37, you see Rafa, those guys have been getting better and better and better as time goes on.
It's amazing.
And if they play 100 years, guess what? They will do everything perfect.
Well, all right, I'll let you go after this. Yeah. And this has been a wonderful chat. I'm so excited to talk to you, Jose. But when you watched Novak in Cincinnati, did you watch the match in Cincinnati?
I sure did.
I think Alcaraz, this is the perfect thing for him at this stage of his career. He's already got the most slams.
Yes.
But Roger and Rafa, we don't know what we're going to see from Rafa when he comes back to the tour, hopefully next year. And now he has this young challenger who's going to bring out the best in him sort of in this next phase of his career. And we could be the beneficiaries of that, because we'll get to see these amazing battles throughout it.
Totally.
But I think, honestly, this could be the best thing that happened to Novak.
Oh, no. I mean, once again, I was the final. It was a great tennis match.
Oh, it's amazing.
The variety, and I was pretty impressed with Novak actually exploring some of the things that he basically doesn't do it often.
And coming back from the heat exhaustion that he had. I didn't think he was going to be able to continue.
No.
It was amazing. No. So,
well, it kind of shows you what a great, once again, what a great champion he is. I mean, him and Rafa and Roger. I mean, when they talk about Alcaraz and they say, well, do you think he'll win more than 23? And I say, well, from 2 that he's won to 23, there is a lot of slams.
Yeah.
And a lot of intangibles that go with that. You got to stay healthy. You got to stay hungry. The competition, everybody's pretty damn good. So you have a bad day, you're out.
Yeah.
So
that's the key. I'm glad you brought that up. It's having the bad day. And last night you were on the match with Djokovic, and he was having a bad day with Laszlo Djere.
Yes.
And he's like, I can't have a bad day. I'm not going to let this happen. And the great champions don't let that bad day take them over.
Because you normally do. When you play a slam, in general, you have a bad day where you get up in the morning, and for some reason the energy is not there, your legs are not there. but the champions, they normally they find a way, and that's the difference on the rankings really at all levels. I mean, because that kid yesterday, he played well.
Oh, he was hitting every shot.
He was matching Novak. He played well
until he was broken. I think in his first service game in the third set.
Yes.
Until that moment, I was convinced he was going to win because he had Novak on the ropes.
Yes.
But once Novak broke him, all the belief started to go out for Jure, and Novak started to say,
well,
"Oh, that's right."
With him, that's the difference once again. By him getting broken on the third, his belief went away. With Novak losing the first two sets, his belief stayed intact.
Yeah, exactly. Like just a matter of time. I'll get it together.
That's the that was separation. One again, that separates the top 100 with the top 50, or the top 50 from the top 20.
Exactly.
Those are more of a mental situation, how they deal with those emotions that really a lot of times how they hit the ball.
Jose, I could talk to you for hours. I'm so appreciative of the time.
Thank you.
The next time we chat, and I hope we talk soon, we're going to talk about horses, Idaho, hiking out in the wilds, because we're talking about that on our walk over here, and I love that. So I love the life you're living.
Well,
so
that's my second passion.
No.
My passion has been tennis all my life, but nature is my second passion, and I don't think I'll master it as well as I did with tennis. But believe me, I'm trying. But I think I'm going to run out of time. Actually,
no, I'm always going to bet on you, Jose.
I'm running out of time.
Hey, listen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, I'm pretty sure Jose wouldn't want to take on a 50-year-old client with mediocre skills and risk selling his reputation as a great coach, but man, would that be fun. Man, learning from him, would love that. That is a man who is living his best life, and I could not be happier for him or more grateful for all he's given to the sport of tennis. Well, that's going to do it for us today. So let me thank our sponsors, the USTA, for making this show possible. And let me thank Sam Stosur and Jose Higueras for coming on. And, of course, thanks to all of you for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow for Day 7 and the start of the 4th round. So make your plans to join us. Until then, be well, and we'll see you tomorrow.